All right, today we're going to handicap Saturday's Pegasus World Cup from Gulfstream Park. As you can see on the screen here, I've got the post positions for 9 furlongs on the Gulfstream Park dirt course. There's a short run, very short run into the first turn. If you have an outside draw, you're at a disadvantage. You have to get a position. You see here, there's been 368 races run at this distance since Gulfstream Park reconfigured their track in, I believe it was 2005. Gulfstream always used to be a mile track. They reconfigured it to a mile and an eighth. Much like Aqueduct and Saratoga's main tracks are a mile and an eighth. You got a short run into the first turn. So you can see, no one's won from the 13 or 14, but only 3 horses have tried. Post 12s, 2 for 27. Of course, one of those wins was Big Brown. Won the Florida Derby as a big favorite from post position number 12. Got a brilliant ride from Kent DeSormo that day. He broke very fast, rode aggressively, got position to the first turn. And he was actually on the rail about halfway through the first turn from the 12 post. So you can win from out there if you're the best horse. Post 11's 4%. Post 10's where Gun Runner drew. You see he's 4 for 78. 5% wins from that post. He's at a disadvantage from out there. I mean, it's nothing, it's nothing too extreme, but you're gonna have to break well. You're gonna have to get a good position from out there, or else you're gonna get hung up extremely wide. A little too much is probably being made about these posts since California Chrome drew post 12 in this race last year, and if you remember, he completely laid an egg. I mean, Chrome run so bad that day. I really doubt that post 12 had as much to do with his dismal performances. A lot of people made it out to be, but there are the post positions. You can see it is an edge to be inside. You're at a disadvantage to be outside, but I mean, it all really depends on the break and how the race unfolds. That's for sure. Okay, we start with the number 1 horse here, Singing Bullet, who drew that advantageous rail post. He may have won the post position draw, but this horse is just monstrously outclassed here. It's a Stronach stable horse, a house horse, so that's why you get the invitation here. Was beaten at 4-5 last time. I watched the race. He had a troubled trip that day, early trouble, got caught back. But even on his best day, he is just not even remotely competitive with any of these horses. So, he won the post draw, but I expect Singing Bullet to get absolutely hot and dirty this race. He's going to get dusted. I generously assigned him a 0.5% chance of winning. Had he drawn the 11 or 12, I probably would have given him 0%, but he's 200 to 1 fair value. So that is the 1 horse in the Pegasus, Singing Bullet. Okay, the number 2 horse here is West Coast for trainer Bob Baffert. This horse was unraced as a 2-year-old. You can see he broke his maiden on March 12th at Santa Anita. He's just been improving all the time. You see his figures here at 82, jumps forward to an 89, pairs it up, jumps forward 10 points, pairs it up, jumps forward 8 points, pairs it up. Run a good third in the Breeders' Cup Classic, was steadied early. It was a good race for a 3-year-old against older horses. He's had, Baffert's freshened him up since then. Being lightly raced and being 4 is the age generally when horses peak. So there's upside for West Coast here. He may have yet another forward move in him. And another forward move would make him extremely tough to beat. He got an ideal draw. He drew post position number 2. Javier Castellano knows the Gulfstream Park track as well as anyone. He should be able to get a good trip here. West Coast, I assigned him a 17% chance of winning, which makes 5 to 1 odds, fair value for him. If he's a shorter price than that, look elsewhere. But if he happens to go off at better than 5 to 1, he's a horse you might want to play in a race. But West Coast for Bob Baffert looks like an emerging horse in here. Will be a factor most likely. Okay, the next horse we're going to look at here is Stellar Wind. She's been one of the top fillies or mares in the country really throughout her career. She's had great battles with Beholder, future Hall of Famer Beholder. She beat her here in the Zenyatta with 110 buyer, carrying 125 pounds. Stellar Wind had been pointed all year for the Breeders' Cup Distaff at Del Mar. Was extremely disappointing. She had an inside post. She got caught on a dead rail that day. I mean, the rail was very, very bad, especially on Friday. She was there throughout, really never run a jump. She went to auction after this and was purchased privately by Mike Tabor. Sent to Chad Brown, which is an interesting trainer change. Chad Brown really could find something with new horses. Perhaps I'm overestimating her a little bit, but I gave Stellar Wind a 4% chance in this race. To me, 25 to 1's fair value. She's an extremely classy mare who's very good on her day. All right, the 4-horse here is Sharp Azteca for the miracle worker, Jorge Navarro. Sharp Azteca was second in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. Paco Lopez sent him out, through punishing fractions that day, 22-4, 46-4. Tried to keep him off the rail, but still, he was a little bit more inside than you kind of wanted to be. That was a Friday race. The Cigar Mile on December 2nd, Sharp Azteca really improved with slightly more patient tactics that day. Drew off to win by 5 1/4 lengths, posted a dazzling 115 buyer figure under 125 pounds. This is the speed of the speed in here. Navarro's a trainer that you always have to fear. Arad Ortiz Jr. gets on the horse for the first time. If Gunrunner doesn't break his Sharp and doesn't want to really force Sharp Azteca, if Asmussen and that camp have doubts about Sharp Azteca getting the distance, and they just let him have it all his own way on the lead, this horse might not stop. I mean, he's an extremely talented horse. I don't care if it's 1 1/8. If there's no pressure on him, he'll get 1 1/8 with no pressure. So there's an off chance that he wires this field. I assigned him a 13% chance of victory, which makes 7 to 1 fair value odds for Sharp Azteca. The 5-horse is Collected for Bob Baffert. He won the Pacific Classic, upsetting Arrogant in the summer last year. In the Breeders' Cup Classic, he stalked Gunrunner all the way. It was kind of like a merry-go-round race. Gunrunner first the whole way, Collected second the whole way, West Coast third the whole way. The pace really held. Baffert wanted to try something different in the San Antonio. They tried a complete change of tactics with Collected. He was bet to 1 to 5 favoritism. The bettors there, unfortunately, were playing him off his great form. But they took him in hand. There was 5-horse field. He's dead last early through very slow fractions. 24-3 and 49 for a 2-turn route at Santa Anita is, pokey fractions for claiming horses, let alone, grade 2 older males. So Collected, just wasn't able to cut into the margin. That's not his game. I mean, you can't take him back and expect to turn him into a deep closer. But what Baffert did there, he kind of set him up for this race. I think what you're going to see is Collected return to that stock and go tactics. Probably not going to try to hook Sharp Azteca early, but he's probably going to sit second or third. It's going to be interesting to see who presses Sharp Azteca. It's got to be either Collected or Gunrunner most likely. So one of those two will. The dream scenario for Sharp Azteca is that neither one does. But I expect Mike Smith's pretty aggressive. I actually expect Collected to be sitting second, probably perched off Sharp Azteca. I give him a 9% chance to win. He's 11 to 1 fair value odds. All right, the number 6 horse here is the stretch running Gunnevera for Antonio Sano. He won the Fountain of Youth Stakes here at Gulfstream when he got a tremendous pace setup like he should get here. They went 23-2, 47. He drew off to win by almost 6 lengths. In the Travers, Gunnevera run an excellent second. West Coast made the lead through very reasonable fractions, 48, 112. Made a wide sweeping move, finished a clear second. Thought he was kind of a sneaky horse in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Did not get a good ride from Edgar Zayas that day. I have no idea what he was doing in the room. He clearly wasn't paying attention because he kept Gunnevera on the rail, pretty much the whole way. And it was a deep rail. Other riders were avoiding. I mean, it was the absolute last place you wanted to be that day. And, Gunnevera finished 5th in a race that kind of was a merry-go-round race. The leader led the whole way. Second place was second all the way around. Third place was third all the way around. This race should set up a little, that race in theory was going to set up for a closer. They went 46-1, but the best horses stayed on. That might happen again, but this race has a shot to, self-destruct on the front end. You get 3 or 4 horses going too fast, sucks all the other stalkers in, sets up for a closer to pick up the pieces late. And really the most reliable closer in this race is probably Gunnevera. That's why I signed him a 6% chance of winning. Makes 15 to 1 odds, fair value.